How's everybody doing? Great to be learning with you on a Wednesday, Yom Revi'i. Let's light up the darkness. Got a nice milestone coming tomorrow. Today is the 1,599th page that we're covering. So tomorrow we hit 1,600. Quite a journey we're on. And the complete Daf Yomi journey is 2711, 2,711 pages of the Talmud Bavli. Who's in the house? Stephen in New Hampshire, Yehuda in South Carolina, Lucy in Minnesota, Bill in Missouri, Shandor in the Bronx, Sharon in New Jersey, Bella in Florida, Caroline in Florida, John in Maine, Guy in Ohio, Melissa in Great Neck, Chaim in Florida. Welcome, everybody. Today's episode of AT Daily is sponsored by Adam Simons and dedicated, honestly, in growth of myself. He's dedicating because he's growing thanks to what he's learning at Accidental Talmudist. What a beautiful tribute. Adam, thank you for enabling us to share more Torah with more people around the world. May you and all your loved ones be showered in blessings, and we say Amen. What was I just going to say? It made me think. It'll come back to me. Okay, we are opening a new... the AT app. The AT app was just approved in the App Store for iPhones. It's just a slightly longer approval process for Google Android, so that's not quite there yet. It's in the process. And it said like 24 hours until it's actually findable. But like tomorrow, you'll be able to download the AT app if you have an iPhone, and soon enough if you're on Google or Android. So that's something to look forward to. The app is awesome. It's beautiful. It's a great way to consume our content, including AT Daily. Okay, where are we? We are opening a new chapter here in Tractate Bava Metzia, the 22nd volume of the Talmud. We are opening chapter 7, which is sort of some of the original labor laws. The Torah has the original labor laws in the world, and this chapter begins to elaborate on them. But very quickly, even in today's daf, the first page of this chapter, we're going to get into some very, very colorful stories of the sages. Wonderful agadata, right? The more storytelling, folkloric aspects of the Talmud. A little bit less legalese, as it were. And tomorrow is the very famous story of when Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish met. Very unusual meeting of two sages at the time when Reish Lakish was not a sage, rather he was a bandit. So that's a very colorful story we should come to tomorrow. Okay, here in chapter 7, let me just read you a couple of verses from the Bible that are going to be relevant. One is from Psalm 104, verse 23. Man goes forth to his work and to his labor until the evening. And from Deuteronomy 23, verses 25 and 26. When you come into your neighbor's vineyard, then you may eat grapes until you have enough at your own pleasure. But you shall not put any in your vessel. When you come into your neighbor's standing grain, then you may pluck ears with your hand, but you shall not move a sickle onto your neighbor's standing grain. Right? So interesting. You can pick a piece of fruit from your neighbor's vineyard just to eat, but you can't take it home with you. Okay, Mishna number 1 here in chapter 7. With regard to one who hires laborers and tells them to rise exceptionally early and to continue working until exceptionally late. This sounds like production on a movie. If this is in a locale where laborers are not accustomed to rising so early or to continuing to work until so late, well, then the employer is not permitted to compel them to do so. in a locale where employers are accustomed to feeding their laborers, the employer must feed them. If they are in a locale where an employer is accustomed to providing their laborers with sweet foods, he must provide such food. Everything is in accordance with the regional custom in these matters. There was an incident. Usually we encounter incidents, right, in the Gemara, but here's one in the Mishnah. There was an incident involving Rabbi Yochanan ben Metzia, who said to his son, "Go out and hire laborers for us." His son went, hired them, and pledged to provide sustenance for them as a term of their employment. And here's the key omission. He did not specify what kind of sustenance he would provide to these laborers. That's a problem, as we shall see. And we've encountered this story before. And when he came back to his father and reported what he had done, Rabbi Yochanan ben Metzia said to his son, "My son, even if you were to prepare a feast for them, like that of King Solomon in his time, you would not have fulfilled your obligation to them, as they are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. If you said you will feed them, and you didn't specify what you would feed them with, you might have implied that you're feeding them what they are entitled to. And since all Jews are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it's like we're all royalty, we're all nobility, and there's no way we can afford to feed them such a feast, for their lunchtime when they're coming here to labor in our fields. You needed to tell them what you would feed them. You can't leave that unspecified. Rather, before they begin engaging in their labor, go out and say to them, the stipulation that food will be provided is on the condition that you have the right to claim from me only a meal of bread and legumes, which is the typical meal given to laborers in this locale. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, Rabbi Yochanan ben Metzia's son did not need to state this condition, as the principle is that everything is in accordance with the regional custom. That's Mishnah number 1, here on page 83a. Short daf because we did some of 83a already yesterday. Gemara, with regard to the Mishnah's statement that an employer may not compel his laborers to rise exceptionally early and to continue working until exceptionally late, the Gemara asks, isn't this obvious? By what right can he force them to do so? And the Gemara explains, no, the Mishnah's ruling is necessary only in a case where the employer increased their wages beyond what is standard in that place. So lest you say that the employer could say to the laborers, the fact that I increased your wages was with the understanding that you would rise early and continue working late for me. The Mishnah therefore teaches us that the laborers can say in response to the employer, the fact that you increased our wages was with the understanding that we would perform quality work for you, not that we would work longer hours. Now we're on page 83b. Reish Lakish says a laborer's entrance into the city from the field at the end of the day's work is at his own expense, i.e. he must work until the very end of the day before returning home, and he is not paid for his travel time. In contrast, his departure to work is at his employer's expense, i.e. he may travel after sunrise, which is time that he is paid for. And the source for this is as it is stated, the sun rises, they slink away and couch in their dens. Man goes forth to his work and to labor until the evening. Psalm 104, verses 22 and 23. So this verse indicates that people set out to work only from sunrise, but they work until the very end of the day. So interesting. You want them working as long as there's any light, right? So from the moment that there's sunrise, they should go. But because they're getting up so early, you're paying them for their travel time when they get up at sunrise and keep moving. By contrast, at the end of the day, they work until nightfall, right? So the end of the twilight hour, and then they walk home on their own dime. They don't get paid for that. So these were long work days. especially in the summer, but that was the way it was done then, and you follow the local custom. Now, the Gemara asks, but if employment practices are in accordance with regional custom, how can a source be cited from a verse? Let us see how they are accustomed to work in that place. And the Gemara answers, the statement of Reish Lakish is with regard to a new city, which does not yet have an accepted practice. So the Gemara asks, well, even so, let us see from which city the laborers originally came, and let them follow the customs of that city. And the Gemara answers, this is a case of an eclectic group of laborers who came from many different cities. So the Gemara offers an alternative answer, and if you wish, say instead that the employer said to the laborer, I am hiring you as a laborer by Torah law. So according to this explanation, Reish Lakish is detailing the law by Torah law, which is the workers set out at sunrise, they get paid for that amount of time from when they get up at sunrise and start traveling, and they finish at nightfall, but they don't get paid for their travel time home. With regard to the aforementioned psalm, the Gemara notes Rabbi Zera interpreted a verse homiletically, and some say that Rav Yosef taught in a baraisa. What is the meaning of that which is written? You make darkness and it is night, in which all the beasts of the forest creep forth. Now that's a verse right before the verses we just read. That's Psalm 104, verse 20. So now the Gemara is going to interpret, right, phrase by phrase, this verse, right, not just on its face, but the deeper meaning. So you make darkness and it is night. This is referring to this world, Olam Hazeh, the world we live in, as opposed to the world to come. So that's referring to this world that we live in. And why are we comparing it to nighttime? Because we are living in the dark, right? We're not seeing the presence of God around us. We have to seek out God. God is hidden from us, and that's why this world is like the night. Next phrase, in which all the beasts of the forest creep forth. And these are the wicked in this world, who resemble a beast of the forest, as the wicked have great influence in this world, right? But the mortal coil has a limited duration, right? Our lives in this world are finite. Even if you're blessed to live to 120 years, then it ends. Our souls return to the world of souls, which is eternal. There, the wicked have no sway. Here they have sway, because this is a place where God's authority is hidden by design, so that everybody has free will and can choose to do good, or to be wicked. Now, with regard to the world to come, and the world to come, Olam Haba, the world to come, sometimes this refers to the world of souls, right? The place where our souls come from and return to. And sometimes this refers to the resurrection of the dead in the times of Mashiach, the Messianic age. But at any rate, we're talking about a world beyond this world where we go. Excuse me. Where am I? Yes, so with regard to the world to come, the verse states, the sun rises, they slink away and couch in their dens. Psalm 104:22. So the phrase, the sun rises, means for the righteous. And they slink away, this refers to the wicked who, after they leave this world, go to spend some time in Gehenna, a place where their souls will be refined of the wickedness that they indulged themselves in while they were here. As for the phrase, and couch in their dens, it is interpreted as follows. You will not have a single righteous person who will not have his own residence in the world to come, as befitting his dignity. Okay? You get a reward in the world to come as befitting your dignity, right? As befitting the deeds that you did while you were in this life. And of course, there's a lot of jokes that come to mind kind of in this vein. I told the one not long ago about the Tel Aviv taxi driver and the rabbi who find themselves online getting into heaven. I'm not going to tell that one right now. But there's the other one where a lawyer and a rabbi find themselves online waiting to get into heaven. The rabbi is pretty confident. He has devoted his life to his congregation. The lawyer looks pretty nervous. And here comes the angel who's in charge of admissions to heaven. And he's coming along the line in his golf cart, looking for somebody. The rabbi smiles. The lawyer is sheepish. And the angel comes along and motions to the lawyer to get in the golf cart. And the lawyer thinks, oh boy, I'm just getting shuttled out of here. But the golf cart takes him past the line, special VIP privileged area, skip the line, have a glass of wine, and he gets shown to his new residence in the world to come, in heaven. And it's a mansion on a hill. The rabbi finally gets through the long line. He's given his very nice apartment in a condominium complex. And when he sees that the lawyer got this mansion on the hill, he goes to find the angel and he says, not that I'm complaining, but I dedicated my whole life to the service of God and bringing God's teachings, God's Torah teachings to my congregation. And this lawyer, and I like my apartment, but why does the lawyer get such a spectacular mansion and I get the nice apartment? And the angel, of course, says, listen, we've had a lot of rabbis up here. It's our first lawyer. It's tough telling jokes to a camera, but I imagine you're laughing. Okay, where are we? So anyway, here is the Gemara that assures us that the righteous will have a residence befitting their dignity when they arrive in the world to come. All right, let's continue. Where am I? Yes, befitting his dignity. Now, with regard to the phrase, man goes forth to his work, it indicates that the righteous go forth to receive their reward. And the phrase, and to his labor until the evening, right, which we were using as peshat, as its surface meaning, that's why the employer pays his people when they're walking to work very early in the morning from sunrise, but he doesn't have to pay them from when they're walking home at night. But now the homiletic interpretation, and to his labor until the evening, teaches that the verse is referring to one who has completed his labor by the evening, i.e. before the evening of his lifetime. In other words, this was a person who kept asking himself during his life, why did God send me into this world? What is my mission? What is the unique gift that only I can provide the world? And he sought to fulfill his mission. When such a person leaves this world, he will go contentedly and to his reward. Now so the Gemara relates a story. Now we're going to start getting into some very colorful stories. The Gemara relates a story that involves rising early. So Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, found a certain officer, a par hagavna, whose responsibility was to arrest thieves. Now this is in the Persian Empire, right? They were in Bava, which is Iraq, right? But it was a part of the Persian Empire, which, predecessor to Iran. Okay, so you can imagine this part of the world. So there's a certain officer, this paragavna. And Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, found him. And this officer's job was to arrest thieves. So Rabbi Elazar said to the officer, how are you able to arrest them? Aren't they likened to beasts? As it is written, you make darkness, meaning God makes darkness, and it is night, in which all the beasts of the forest creep forth. And so there are those who say that Rabbi Elazar said to him a proof from this verse, he lies in wait in a secret place as a lion in his lair. He lies in wait to catch the poor. He catches the poor when he draws him up in his net, from Psalm 10. Now, since the wicked are so devious, perhaps you apprehend the righteous and leave the wicked alone, right? So he's saying to him, how are you able to make sure that you're catching thieves, right? Because you can imagine that this king's officer, whose job it is to catch thieves, he has a quota. He has to produce thieves. It's not so easy to find thieves. So Rabbi Elazar is asking him, when you are having trouble finding thieves, do you just arrest innocent people so that you can fulfill your quota? Are you sure that you're arresting thieves? Right? It's a good question. that Rabbi Elazar is asking, and he's doing that to defend, to protect innocent people who might get caught up in the net of this officer assigned to catching thieves. So the officer said to him, "But what should I do? It is the king's edict that I must arrest thieves, and I am performing my job to the best of my ability." So Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, said to him, "Come, and I will instruct you how you should do it. At the 4th hour of the day, enter the tavern." So the 4th hour, I think we're talking like about noon, right? At the 4th hour of the day, enter the tavern. When you see someone drinking wine, holding his cup in his hand, and dozing, inquire about his background. Why is this guy sitting in a tavern and sleeping in the middle of the day? So if he is a Torah scholar and he is dozing, okay, so then you can assume that he arose very early, even before sunrise, for his studies. That's why he's so tired now. If he is a daytime laborer, assume that he rose early and performed his work. And if his work is at night and no one heard him working, it is possible that this is because he draws copper wires, which is a form of labor that does not produce noise. And if he is none of these, then he is a thief. And you should arrest him, because it can be assumed that he was awake the previous night because he was stealing. And that is why he is now dozing off. Sounds like circumstantial evidence, but okay. Now, the matter of the advice of Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, was heard in the king's palace. The king's ministers said, "Let the reader of the letter be its messenger." Meaning, since Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, offered this apparently very good advice, well, then he should be the one to implement it. So they brought Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, to the authorities, who appointed him to this task. And he proceeded to arrest thieves, right? No good deed goes unpunished. He sought to protect the innocent from getting arrested by that thief catcher. He apparently gave good advice to help him do that work. It came to the attention of the authorities, and then they said to him, "Well, clearly, you would make a good thief catcher." So now Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, has this job. He's the thief catcher. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Korcha sent Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Shimon the following message: "You are vinegar, son of wine." This is an insult. You are vinegar, son of wine. Now, son of wine means because this is Rabbi Elazar, the son of the great Rabbi Shimon. So his father is wine, and his son, this Rabbi Elazar, is vinegar, right? So Rabbi Yehoshua ben Korcha is saying, you didn't live up to the legacy of your father, who was a great man. You are not living righteously. Why? What's wrong with being a thief catcher? You are wicked in comparison to your father, the righteous Rabbi Shimon, just as vinegar is spoiled wine, right? Vinegar is like spoiled wine compared to fine wine. So until when, now here's the accusation, until when will you inform on the nation of our God to be sentenced to execution by a Gentile king's court? In other words, who was Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, surrounded by? Jews. He lived in the Jewish part of Bava. And if he's identifying thieves and turning them over to the authorities, they're Jewish thieves. So what this guy, Rabbi Yehoshua, is saying to him is, what are you doing? We don't turn over our own to the Gentile authorities who are then going to execute them. Right? Our laws, we don't execute for theft. They do. So when you turn over a Jewish thief to those authorities, you're turning them over for a death sentence that does not conform with Torah law. This is very bad. Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, sent a message back to him. What can I do? I am merely eradicating thorns from the vineyard. Meaning I am removing the wicked from the Jewish people. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Korcha sent back to him, let the owner of the vineyard come and eradicate his own thorns. We live in the vineyard. Who's the owner of the vineyard? God. Rabbi Yehoshua is saying to Rabbi Elazar, it's not your job to eradicate the wicked from among us. That's God's job. God will eradicate the thorns from the vineyard. It is not your place to do this. And then there was an incident. The Gemara relates, one day a certain laundryman met Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, and called him to his face, vinegar, son of wine. Right? He had heard that another sage referred to this sage as vinegar, son of wine, and he unleashed that insulting nickname to the sage's face, to Rabbi Elazar's face. And called him that to his face. Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, said, from the fact that this man acted so insolently by vilifying a Torah scholar, one can conclude that he is a wicked person. And he told the authorities, arrest that man. They arrested that man and condemned him to death. Presumably not for insulting a Torah scholar. What do the Gentile authorities care about that? But now that this particular Torah scholar has also been appointed to be a thief catcher and a representative of the government, and that representative of the government is complaining to the government about this wicked Jew, they sentenced him to die. So this is becoming a very difficult situation. After his mind settled, i.e., when his anger subsided, Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, regretted his hasty decision. He went after the laundryman in order to ransom him and save him from execution, but he was unable to do so. And he read the verse about him, whosoever keeps his mouth and his tongue keeps his soul from troubles. Proverbs 21:23, right? If you keep your mouth shut, you will avoid most troubles. Wonderful advice from Proverbs. I.e., in this case, had the laundryman not issued his derogatory comment, he would have been spared this fate. Ultimately, they hanged the laundryman. Now, certainly, we don't execute people under Torah law for theft. All the more we don't execute them for uttering an insult. I mean, this is a disastrous outcome, right? Maybe not. Ultimately, they hanged the laundryman. Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, stood beneath the gallows and wept. Those who were present said to him, our teacher, let it not be bad in your eyes that you caused his death, as this laundryman was a wholly wicked person, and you should know that he and his son both engaged in intercourse with a betrothed young woman, and they did it on Yom Kippur. Right? In other words, they seduced and raped a woman who was married to someone else. A father and a son slept with her, and they did it on Yom Kippur. These were totally wicked people. And it was, and he had that instinct from the get-go that only somebody who was living a life of criminality would come up to him like that with no respect whatsoever and call him vinegar, son of wine. Now, upon hearing this, Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, placed his hand upon his belly, and as we'll see, he was a very large man, placed his hand upon his belly, over his innards, and he said, rejoice, my innards, rejoice, my guts, rejoice. If your mere suspicions are so accurate, right? I felt it in my gut. Now, this is a guy with a very large gut. So he's saying, if your if your suspicions are so accurate, all the more so your certainties must be correct. If the condemnation of this man, based upon the suspicions raised by his insolence, proved to be correct, the identification of thieves in accordance with logical reasoning must certainly be accurate. I am assured about you, my innards, my guts, that worm and maggot will not affect you, which is a sign of a completely righteous person. And he really needed to believe that he was a completely righteous person. Not because he has a big ego and he would like to be known as a completely righteous person, but rather because his job had become to identify thieves who are deserving of punishment, and he needed to be sure that he was always getting it right and not sending innocent people to be punished by the government. Now, nevertheless, his mind was not calmed. He thinks he protests too much, right? He really needed to feel confident. This was a good sign for him, this incident with the laundryman, but he wasn't totally confident that he was so righteous that he was getting every verdict right when he was turning over these thieves. So he decided to test himself. He arranged for people to give him a sedative to drink, anesthesia, and they brought him into a house of marble where surgeries were performed, and they cut open his belly, and they removed baskets upon baskets of fat from his belly, placed them in the hot sun in the summer months of Tammuz and Av, and the fat did not putrefy. In this manner, Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, received proof that his decisions were correct and that he was a holy, righteous individual. I mean, what a story. First of all, who knew? They had tummy tucks 2,000 years ago. Wow. And they were able to remove the fat, and he obviously survived the procedure. And the test of the holy, righteous person is that when the fat is removed from his innards, right? He was talking about his innards. It didn't putrefy in the sun. A righteous individual, his fat doesn't putrefy. The Gemara questions this proof. This is not sufficient proof, as all fat that is not attached to flesh does not putrefy. The Gemara answers, true, all fat not attached to flesh does not putrefy, but the red veins within the fat do putrefy. Here, by contrast, although there were red veins in the fat, they did not putrefy, which is a sign of his righteousness. Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, read the verses about himself. I have set the Lord always before me. Therefore my heart is glad, and my glory rejoices. My flesh also dwells in safety. Psalms 16, 8, and 9. The Gemara relates, and a similar incident also occurred to Rabbi Ishmael, the son of Rabbi Yosef. I.e., he too was appointed a head officer in charge of turning over these criminals. Now we're going to get a head start on page 84a. Elijah, the prophet, encountered him and said to him, right? So sometimes the sages, who are not prophets, but merit to be visited by the prophet Elijah. So Elijah said to him, it wasn't a friendly visit, hey, you're doing a great job. Rather, Elijah the prophet said to him, until when will you inform on the nation of our God to be sentenced to execution? And Rabbi Ishmael, the son of Rabbi Yosef, said to Elijah, what should I do? It is the king's edict that I must obey. Elijah said to him, well, faced with this choice, your father fled to Asia. You should fled to Laodicea rather than accept this appointment. And indeed, there is a halacha, there is a law that Jews may not turn over other Jews to non-Jewish legal authorities. That is a halacha. And before you object, there are definitely exceptions to that halacha. Right? So if there's a person who's your fellow Jew, but who is a criminal, who is a danger to the public, a public menace, then you do turn him over. Right? You do turn him over. for sure any kind of, abuser, sexual abuser, child abuser, but even somebody who is a Chalul Hashem, that his crimes will bring disgrace on the Jewish people and thereby could endanger the Jewish people, that's also someone that you turn over to the authorities. So if you're wondering, you have a situation where you're wondering whether to inform on a fellow Jew to the cops, consult a rabbi. It's not always so simple, but know that there is a law not to do it, and there are a whole host of exceptions when you do it. Okay. Let's keep going. With regard to these sages that we've been discussing, the Gemara adds, when Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Rabbi Yosef, and Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, would meet each other, right? So this is Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yishmael, who are both very large men, very large, obese men. It was possible for a pair of oxen to enter and fit between them, meaning under their bellies. In other words, the space between their heads, because of their large bellies, was so wide that through a similar gap, 2 oxen could have walked through. Quite a space. A certain Roman noblewoman, known as a matronita, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, once said to them, "Your children are not really your own." Meaning she's telling them that their wives must have cheated on them. Why? As due to your obesity, it is impossible that you engaged in intercourse with your wives. They said to her, theirs, meaning our wives' bellies, are larger than ours. The Roman woman said to them, all the more so you could not have had intercourse. And there are those who say that this is what they said to her, for as the man is, so is his strength. Judges 8:21. i.e., our sexual organs are proportionate to our bellies. And there are those who say that this is what they said to her, love compresses the flesh. Where there's a will, there's a way. The Gemara asks, and why did they respond to her audacious and foolish and insulting question? After all, it is written, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you also be like him. Don't get it. Don't stoop to the level of idiots who are saying ridiculous things, lest you become foolish like them. So why answer her at all? And the Gemara answers, they answered her in order not to cast aspersions on the lineage of their children. The Gemara continues discussing the bodies of these sages. And by the way, it could be said that a similar principle applies now. You've got all these protests going on in the colleges. You've got people, constantly posting on social media saying the most ridiculous lies about the Jewish people, about Jewish history in the Holy Land. I mean, look, here we are talking in detail about how Jews lived in the Holy Land on a day-to-day basis, how they worked, what the laws were, etc., thousands of years ago. I mean, obviously, there's so much evidence, it's crazy. And these idiots come along, listen to, foreign enemies of Israel and America and the Jewish people who are manipulating these young people in order to attack the Jewish people and America and to weaken all of us. And these young people are so susceptible and they're so easily manipulated that they start spouting off and repeating these lies. Now, when you're faced with one of these people spouting nonsense, on the one hand, you could say, why would I engage in conversation with them? Why would I debate them? Why would I stoop to that level of lies, lunacy, idiocy, moronic conversations? On the other hand, if we don't engage in these dialogues, in these debates, if we don't put up our own narrative of what's going on in the Holy Land, then the only people telling our story are our enemies. God forbid. So there are times like this, they were protecting the lineage of their children, we're protecting the safety of Israel and the Jewish people, where we have to stoop and engage in these dialogues, even with morons. And by morons, I don't mean people who are lacking IQ. I mean people who are just so ignorant and uneducated that they'll believe anything, right? They're so open-minded that their brains have fallen out and they don't stand up for anything, so they fall for anything. Okay, let's keep going. The Gemara continues discussing the bodies of these sages. Rabbi Yochanan said the organ of Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Rabbi Yosef, was the size of a jug of 9 kav, large. Rav Papa said the organ of Rabbi Yochanan was the size of a jug of 5 kav. And some say it was the size of a jug of 3 kav. Still, these are metaphors because it's, hyperbolic. It's nobody's member is that size. Rav Papa himself had a belly like the baskets made in Harpanya, large. With regard to Rabbi Yochanan's physical features, the Gemara adds that Rabbi Yochanan said, now he was very large, he's also very handsome. Rabbi Yochanan said, I alone remain of the beautiful people of Jerusalem. And the Gemara continues, one who wishes to see something resembling the beauty of Rabbi Yochanan should bring a new shiny silver goblet from the smithy, right? So a shining silver goblet, no tarnish on it whatsoever, like mirror smooth. And fill it with red pomegranate seeds, and place a diadem of red roses upon the lip of the goblet, and position it between the sunlight and the shade, meaning it will be backlit. This is like a recipe for a spectacular still life photograph. And that luster that you will see, that glowing edge of the silver and the seeds and the roses, that is a semblance of Rabbi Yochanan's beauty. And the Gemara asks, is that so? Was Rabbi Yochanan really so beautiful? But doesn't the master say the beauty of Rav Kahana is a semblance of the beauty of Rabbi Abahu? And the beauty of Rabbi Abahu is a semblance of the beauty of Jacob, our forefather. And the beauty of Jacob, our forefather, is a semblance of the beauty of Adam, the original man, fabricated by God, God's self, right? You can imagine that the archetype human, whether Adam or Eve, would be the most perfect humans who ever existed, right? The most beautiful, the most handsome. And, like in this sort of lineage of beauty, the exemplars are Adam, Jacob, Rabbi Abahu, and Rav Kahana. So what's missing? Rabbi Yochanan. That's the question. Why wasn't he mentioned? And yet Rabbi Yochanan is not included in this list. So if he's so beautiful, why was he included in the list? And the Gemara answers, Rabbi Yochanan is different from these other men, as he did not have a beauty of countenance. His face lacked some beauty. And what was it that it lacked? A beard. For whatever reason, Rabbi Yochanan did not have a beard. Now the Gemara continues to discuss Rabbi Yochanan's beauty. Rabbi Yochanan would go and sit by the entrance to the mikveh, the ritual bath. And he said to himself, when Jewish women come up from their immersion in the mikveh, meaning date night with their husbands, they should encounter me first so that they have beautiful children like me, meaning beautiful inside and out, that they should be handsome, but more importantly, that they should become Torah scholars like me. Rabbi Yochanan was the foremost Torah scholar in his generation. And this is based on the idea that the image which a woman encounters before, she has date night with her husband, will affect the child that she conceives. And the rabbi said to Rabbi Yochanan, isn't the master worried about being harmed by the evil eye, by displaying yourself in this manner and saying, I'm so handsome that, it's good for the women to see me before they go home to date night with their husbands. It's a little vain. It's a little braggy. Aren't you worried that the evil eye is going to be turned on you because of this? And I'm almost done. So questions or comments, please get them in now. And Rabbi Yochanan said to them, I come from the offspring of Joseph. Right? He's a descendant of Joseph. over whom the evil eye does not have dominion. As it is written, Joseph is a fruitful vine by a fountain, alei ayin. And Rabbi Bahu says, do not read the verse as saying by a fountain, alei ayin. Rather, read it as those who rise above the eye, meaning the evil eye, olei ayin. Joseph's descendants are not susceptible to the influence of the evil eye. And Rabbi Yosef Bar Chanina said that this idea is derived from here, Genesis 48:16, and let them grow the yigdu into a multitude in the midst of the earth. And just as, meaning this is the blessing from Jacob to Joseph, just as with regard to fish in the sea, the water covers them, and the evil eye therefore has no dominion over them, as they are not seen, so too with regard to the offspring of Joseph, the evil eye has no dominion over them. That concludes our reading for today. We'll pick it up tomorrow there in the middle of page 84a. Wonderful, wonderful story. We're going to start with tomorrow, the story of Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish and how they met when Rabbi Yochanan was already the preeminent scholar of his generation and Reish Lakish was still a bandit. Okay, a couple of questions from Sharon. Are we assuming that the workers are agricultural workers? Construction workers? Are there any differences implied by the nature of the employment? I think it's a great question, Sharon, and I don't think that we received any data on that. Just that the standard workday, if not defined by local custom, would be from sunrise to nightfall, maybe for construction or a laborer in the field, use the day while you have it. And it's interesting because what that means is that in the summer, very long days. But in the winter, very short days, and so it evens out. Right? Sharon also says, I remember Joseph as having been described as exceptionally handsome, more than Jacob. Why wouldn't he be identified more than Jacob? Great question. Great question. I don't know. Yeah, absolutely he was described that way. So why do we go back to Jacob? I think there is the idea in the Midrash that, when Joseph was, summoned in by Potiphar's wife, and she, the story just says that she tried to seduce him. He said, I would never do that. My master has given me everything. She kept trying. He refused. She got mad. She accused him of raping her, and then he ended up in prison. Terrible, unfair story. And it was. But the Midrash says it says that he came into the house to do his work, and that's actually a euphemism that Joseph was ready to give in. He was going to give in and allow himself to be seduced by his master's wife. But at the moment of truth, he had this vision of his father's face, and it stopped him from doing it. So maybe even though Joseph might have been more handsome than Jacob, and he was very righteous, no question about that, but maybe somehow Jacob is even elevated a little more. And also he's one of the patriarchs and Joseph is not, so maybe there's something to that. That's what I've got for us today. And with God's help, we'll be together again tomorrow to open the great tale, colorful tale of Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, and page 84 at our regular Thursday time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Have a great night.